Hello aspirants, welcome to IAS Icons by Unacademy. My name is Shubham Sardhalia. I request you all to please join the class at the earliest. All those who have already joined, just let me know if my audio and video is clear to you. Then we'll start with our today's discussion. I request you guys to join the class at the earliest. All those who have already joined, just let me know if my audio and video is clear to you. Please share the session as promised with you guys. I have come up with NCERT discussion. We already had NCERT class for subject geography. During the daytime, we'll be discussing chapter 2 of class 6th NCERT history. Let's start with our discussion. So, we already discussed chapter 1 few days back. You will find that playlist on this channel. If you haven't watched the discussion of chapter 1, I request you after the class go and watch the chapter 1 also. Before we proceed further, I just want you guys to know that since you are preparing for UPSC Civil Services, it means that you aim to qualify this examination. So in that case, you need to start your preparation with India's largest learning platform, that is Unacademy. Why Unacademy, sir? Because we offer you widest choice of educators. You get unlimited views on lectures, flexibility to change your course. Aspirants like you are toppers today. Hi Danish Faisal. Hi Aparna. Yes Danish, this is the part of Unacademy only. With Unacademy, you can start your preparation along with India's top educators, India's best educators. So these educators will help you qualify this exam. They will help you in each subject. You can see on your screen, you have educators for history, polity, all these subjects you talk about. We are taking care of it. So what you have to do here, you have to start your preparation with us at Unacademy, and with the help of top educators, you will ultimately qualify this examination. Moving forward, my name is Shubham Sardhalia. I'll be your mentor and educator for this UPSC preparation. The subjects I'll be taking up with you include history, science and technology, social issues, internal security, current affairs, and apart from that, I'll be discussing subjects like NCERTs. Before we proceed further, you should know that if you want to qualify this examination, you need to master the art of answer writing, because ultimately how well you are able to write the answer in the examination, that's what's gonna make a difference, and that's ultimately fetch you marks. So for that, we are bringing test series for mains answer writing only at rupees 4,990. Enroll in it today. Start with your preparation. You will get 30 full length sectional tests, superior model answer, customized feedback and evaluation. So all these things will ultimately help you score good marks in GS. And apart from that, if you want to score more than 325 in UPSC optionals, or if you are getting good marks in your optional, it means you are already winning the larger portion of the race in your competition. If you are able to secure more than 300 marks with your optional, so it means that your ultimate score tally is gonna be really high. So for that, you need to enroll with us in our optional test series for anthropology, PubEd, geography and mathematics. For a brief period of time, we are giving you 20% off on all subscriptions. Normally you get 10% off, but for a limited period, if you enroll between September 26th to September 30th using this code IAS Icons, you can get up to 20% discounts on all our courses. Our courses are starting very soon. Enroll at the earliest. And for all those students who are unable to pay the entire amount at once, we request you to opt for our 0% EMI option. You can call on this number and the entire subscription amount can be paid in small monthly installments. So this is our discussion, our past textbook for class 6th NCERT. So we are discussing this NCERT chapter wise. Danish Faisal has a question, sir, optional paper mein best paper aapke according. So see guys, we have a long list of optional papers. Now that entirely depends upon you, that what optional paper you feel like taking. What I suggest to most of the aspirants is you can shortlist at least 4 papers. It's not that you will be willing to take every subject as an optional. So you can categorize that what subjects you wish to take as your optionals. So you can shortlist at least 4 subjects. Go through the syllabus of those 4 subjects and give reading to at least first topic of that syllabus. Go, for example, somebody opts for these 4 optionals. You go for PubEd, Socio, you go for history and geography. So you shortlist these 4 optionals. Now what you have to do is you have to look for the syllabus of these 4 optionals. Read topic 1 of that syllabus for four of them. Once you read the first topic of these 4 subjects, try looking for questions from those topics that have been asked in the examination. You will yourself realize that which topic you were able to understand the best way and whose answers you are able to give in a most appropriate manner. The subject that you find most appropriate while writing your answer will ultimately become your optional subject. Okay. Hello Kirti, good evening. I hope Danish you are satisfied with the answer. So we are moving on to the second chapter on the trail of earliest people. So this chapter will talk about how the earliest civilization or earliest people who lived on this earth looked like, what were their occupation, what job they used to do. We'll try to understand all these things. You will find this in old NCERT book. Sir, there are chances that in new NCERTs you may not find this chapter, but this chapter was there in old NCERT, so I tried to discuss this with you. The earliest signs of civilization we have seen, they date back to Paleolithic age. Any idea about what is Paleolithic age? What according to you is a Paleolithic age? Just let me know. Let's make the class interactive, guys, as I always say. Any idea about Paleolithic? Sir, this was the age when the only tool available, only thing that humans of this generation knew about was stones, because that was the easiest possible thing they could find around themselves. Paleolithic can be called as Stone Age or Early Stone Age. The earliest traces of civilization and people we find extends to 2 million years ago, like 20 lakh years from now. Before 20 lakh years before today, and it extends up to 12,000 years ago. See, you go back 1 year ago, you go back 2 years ago. So this age started 20 lakh years ago and came up till 12,000 years ago. We know it as Paleolithic, and this entire age was divided into Lower Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic and Upper Paleolithic. So the oldest traces we find are associated with Paleolithic. Then what came after 12,000 years were from 12,000 before 12,000 years from now up till 10,000 years. We got something known as Mesolithic. So from 12,000 years ago to 10,000 years from before now, what we saw was a Mesolithic age. This was also related to Paleolithic only in a way that Mesolithic and Paleolithic both were associated with the usage of stones. But the difference here was the stones that were used in Mesolithic age were usually smaller in size and hence were called as microliths, and that's why the age was known as Mesolithic. We need to remember, sir, the oldest civilization somewhere from 2 million years up till 12,000 years before now was Paleolithic. 12,000 to 10,000 years before now was our Mesolithic, and 10,000 years before now was the Neolithic age, or we call as New Stone Age. As we move further with other subjects of higher classes, with other NCERTs of history for higher classes, we'll understand more things about these facts and facts in detail. We'll talk more about Paleolithic, we talk more about Mesolithic, we talk more about Neolithic. As of now, are we clear with this entire timeline? For example, if we are what to have example, actually we are living in 2022. 20 million years ago, sorry, 2 million years ago, 20 lakh years ago, the age started was Paleolithic. It went up till 12,000 years ago. From 12,000 to 10,000 years ago, we lived in Mesolithic, and after 10,000, what was there? It was Neolithic. Are we getting things or not? Are we getting these things or not? Just let me know. Are we clear with the discussion till here? Aparna, Kirti, Danish, and all those who have joined us. Are we clear, guys? I assume that we are clear till here. If you have any sort of doubt, you can simply ask me in comment section. I'll be answering each of your queries. So the earliest civilizations or the traces of, if you remember our discussion in first chapter, what we discussed was how we got to know about the things happening in history, the things that happened 2 million years ago, the things that happened 12,000 years ago, how we got to know about those things. We got to know about those things through something called as inscriptions, through something written on the piece of leaf, on written on the bark, written on stones, written on metals. Apart, no, Aparna, Neolithic is not continuing. Neolithic, it started somewhere like 10,000 years ago from now. Are you getting it? It started 10,000 years ago and went like 6,000 up till 6,000 years ago. You remember we talked about AD and BC. We talked about AD and BC in our last chapter. So we took birth of Christ as AD. We took birth of Christ as our reference point. So anything that was happening before the birth of Jesus Christ was BC. So we can assume that 20 lakh years ago, 20 lakh BC, our Paleolithic age started. From 12,000 BC to 10,000 BC, what started was Mesolithic. From 10,000 BC, Neolithic age started and it went up to 6,000 BC in certain areas, and in certain areas it lasted even up till 4,000 to 2,400 BC also. So somewhere around 4,000 years ago, the last traces of Neolithic age ended. Are we clear till here? So what was happening was the earliest people or the traces of the earliest individuals we have were actually the group of hunters and gatherers. What do we mean by hunters and gatherers? We discussed in last class also. Guys, are you doing that thing which I asked you in last class also? What we need to do is, after we are done with this class, like once we discuss the this chapter in a class, you need to go back, you simply Google NCERT class 6th chapter number 2. You should at least read that chapter once so that you are able to understand that what are the things we are talking and what are the things that we are discussing in the class, so that in that way you will also get assured that yeah, I understood this particular NCERT or this particular chapter. So why do you think these people were called as hunters and gatherers? So what they used to do, they used to either hunt animals or to gather certain fruits or vegetables from their areas around. Because they used to hunt or to collect their food, that's why they got this name, hunters and gatherers. They hunted animals, they collected berries and fruits, gathered nuts, eggs, etc. Are we clear why they were called the hunters and gatherers? So in order to hunt, they had to move constantly to gather plant products. For example, if they enter this particular area, you will find certain fruit trees. So you cannot sustain on those fruits throughout your life. Exactly, Kirti. Hunters and gatherers, they used to hunt and gather things. So what happened, these people used to enter one area, they used to find some fruits. Maybe for 1 month, for a certain period of time, they used to stay there till the time they don't consume the entire fruit produce, and after that they would move on to another area. So they needed knowledge of edibility of plant and change of season. Initially what happened, the earliest humans, they would eat up anything they find, anything on the tree, anything on a herb, anything on a shrub. If they could find, they simply would eat it. But maybe few of them died and other people saw them dying after eating some berries or after eating some part of certain plant. So they realized that not every plant, not every fruit, not every berry that is available around them is edible. Edible is something that can be consumed. There are certain plants whose fruits or whose berries or anything grown on that plant are poisonous in nature. So over the period they realized that there are certain poisonous part of plants also we need to refrain from eating. So ultimately they gradually develop that knowledge. So this is the thing of experience. For example, you saw somebody eating a produce from a plant and after that he died. So you would remember it for throughout your life that at least I don't have to eat anything from this plant. So this gradually gave them the knowledge of edibility of plants, and eventually they also realized something known as change of seasons. So what happened? For example, they went to this place and they found number of fruit trees. Maybe they found apple trees. Now apple as a fruit has a particular season. You cannot expect apple to grow throughout the year. So they started consuming those apples, but over the period of time they realized that apples are no more there. So this made them understand that every fruit, every edible thing they find from nature has their seasons. So ultimately both things, the poisonous berries and the consumption of fruits, gave them the knowledge of edibility of plants, that there are certain plants which are not to be consumed, and they learnt about change of seasons. Are we clear? Are we clear with the discussion up till here, sir? For all those students who have joined me in this class, I just want to tell you, yeah, exactly, Kirti, over the time they realized not to go near the fire. So I just want to tell you that at afternoon 1 p.m. we are having class for geography. We are discussing NCERT geography. So we started the discussion of chapter number 2, class 6th NCERT, and we'll continue with that discussion tomorrow also. I request you guys to watch it live. If for some reason, if some of you are working, some of you are studying, and you are not able to watch it at 1 p.m, I request you that you should watch these lectures afterwards. You'll find that NCERT 6th class discussion on our channel only. You should go for it. Then, now since they were hunting the animals, or at times they used to pluck berries and fruits from the trees, they required certain tools. Do you think it's possible to kill animals with bare hands? How do you think they could kill the animals? They required certain tools. And what was the easiest possible tool, which ultimately became the reason why they got these names also? Don't you think they would require certain toys? Certain tools to kill animals? So what were those tools that were available to them? As I told you, sir, the only tools they had access to were stones. So they started using stones and realized that a round stone was not as effective as a pointed stone. So this is stone A, this is stone B. You tell me with which stone it is possible to kill animal with ease, or to hurt somebody. If you want to hurt somebody, or if you want to kill an animal, which stone would you prefer, A or B? Which stone would you prefer, A or B, if you want to kill somebody, or if you want to kill an animal? Sir, undoubtedly the stone we use will be this one, B, because it has a pointed head. It can easily penetrate into the skin. So ultimately they started shaping these stones. Somebody said that they had something known as spear or bhala. So what do you think, what led to the formation of bhala? How did they understand that spear or bhala is something which can be used to kill? So they got a pointed stone, but this small stone had to be hit on the skin, on the body of an animal, and that was quite risky. For example, you are hunting an animal and you have to go in the close proximity so that your stone can hit that. But that was quite difficult. That was quite dangerous, because at times it was seen when these humans, these individuals went on to hunt any animal or to kill him, before they could kill the animal killed them. So they realized one thing, that going to that close proximity to the animal was difficult, was dangerous. So why not to have something with the help of which we can hurt, we can kill the animal from a distance. So very simple, sir. They were living in forest. They were having woods all around. So they went to look for a long piece of wood, tied this pointed stone in front of it. What is this? A piece of wood with a pointed stone, with a sharp stone at the top of it. What is it? Sorry. What it looks like, sir? It is your spear. It is your bhala. So circumstances or situations like this led to the development of different tools. There is always saying necessity is the mother of invention. So initially they had rounded stones. They eventually realized that if this stone was pointed, it was easier to kill an animal. They started using pointed stones. But even with these pointed stones, it was dangerous to go very close to the animal, because you had to do it, only then you would be able to kill that animal. So they decided to tie this stone to a long piece of wood, and that came to be known as what? That came to be known as spear. Are we clear till here or not? So stone tools were made. They were used to cut meat, bones, bark from trees, and hides animal. But they used to kill animals. They used to remove their skin, or we call them as hides. They used to cut the meat. Hi Arun, how are you? They used to chop fruits and roots. At times it's difficult to pluck the pluck the fruit from the tree. So at times you require stone to pluck the fruits also. So they were using stones for all these purposes, and their daily usage of stones was so high that ultimately we call these entire generations as Stone Age. Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. Are we clear till here? Now let's go back to the discussion. We talked about inscriptions and manusmritis. Inscriptions and manusmritis were the certain things written by those earliest civilizations or earliest humans, which tells us a lot about these things. But do you think, I'm also good, Arun, do you think the earliest human, what we know as Adi Manav, he was able to write or read something? From where did we find the evidences of early human? Because what evidences we had were inscriptions and manuscripts. So inscriptions and manuscripts had certain things written on it. But do you expect the early man, the earliest human, to have the knowledge of reading and writing? No sir, his only intention, his only job on this earth was to find something to eat, sleep, answer nature's call, and ultimately go for hunting again. So this early man had no business of reading or writing. So what made us know about these things is possibly the study and analysis of objects found. We found these stones that dated back thousands of years ago. Tools were made of stones. We could find those stones. Tools were made of bones. Tools were made of wood also. So in this way, the archaeological evidence or the objects we found which dated back thousands of years ago, we could easily connect the dots. For example, you saw a stone like this, so you couldn't understand what this is being used for. Then you saw something like a spear. Then you saw a skeleton of an animal in which this spear was inserted. So you could gradually connect the dots and understand that this could be the possible reasons of the objects found. These early humans started to look for places. Earlier they had to travel from one place to another, but eventually they realized that they need to have a settled life. Getting it or not? They need to have a settled life. So they started living near sources of water, because even before food they required something to drink, and that was water. So water was available in nature in the forms of rivers. So they went on to settle near the rivers, that at least some part of their daily routine should become easy. See, that's the tendency, that's our basic nature, that if we have to do n number of tasks, we'll try to make those tasks most easiest as possible. So their only task was to look for food and water. Now they knew that they were hunters and gatherers. They had to go and look out for food. somewhere else. But eventually they decided that for water, if we start living near the water body and then go in the morning, collect the food items and come back here, so we won't have to worry, or we won't have to hunt for water sources at least. So the earliest civilization, they started living near rivers and lakes. Apart from the water, there was one another reason also. Their important tool were stones, and you can most easily find stones in riverbeds because rivers have been flowing, and with the flow of that water of the river, stones from higher reaches, they come towards the downward side of a river. Getting or not? So they were easily getting water from there. They could easily get stones from there. With the help of those, they could easily make their tools. They started living and they realized that they need shelter. When they started living, they could feel the cold, they could feel the warmth of sun. They wanted to protect themselves from rain, so they realized it's better to have a shelter. And the natural shelter they could find were the rocks or caves. They started living in caves, they started living under the rocks. When they were living in rocks, they had ample amount of time. So what they did was, with the help of those pointed stones which they made to kill somebody, they started drawing something on the walls of these caves. For example, the earlier man, he is lying idle in his cave. What he can see is stones all around him. He has a pointed stone. So he starts thinking that I should draw something. He started scribbling the walls of the cave. How that can be done? For example, he saw a dog around him, because these animals were naturally, they were also born naturally. So he could see a dog around him. So he started drawing a dog-like representation on that wall. Maybe something like this. So these things that they did in as a layer activity, because they were not having anything to do, so they started drawing. These became the sources of our information. Are we getting things or not? What might have led to the cave paintings? They eventually got knowledge about fire. Maybe is that, see, when an only thing you have in your hands are the stones, because it was the stone age. Maybe some child or somebody, he was just playing with the stones, he scratched stones with each other and it led to spark, and it ultimately led to fire. So the earliest traces of fire have been found in Kurnool caves in Andhra Pradesh. Evidences and traces of ash have been found. So we could make out that over the period they realized the use of fire. Maybe it was that it was raining heavily outside, so they decided to stay inside the cave, and even in the cave also they were not able to get rid of that cold weather, so they went to light something known as fire. This fire could be used as a source of light. They could use fire as a light also, because they never had torch, they never had LED bulbs, so only thing they could see as a source of light in the darkness was the fire. They could use it to cook meat. Maybe it was like that, they lit fire for warmth, and by mistake a piece of meat fell into it, and when they took that piece of meat out and ate it, they realized that it was actually very tasty. They could use that fire to scare away animals. So fire was used, and fire was used for number of reasons. Are we getting or not? So this was the things related to earliest humans who were living on this earth. Are we getting things or not? Eventually they realized about changing environment. Gradually the environment started to change. Some 12,000 years ago, there were major changes in the climate of the world. This change led to shift to warm conditions. Initially the climate was very cold and was not much appropriate for things like agriculture, but eventually there was change in the climate which led to the development of grassland like conditions. The warm conditions began to develop, and this led to development of grasslands at many places. So this early human realized that the vegetation, the trees, the grass that is around them is not there forever. It grows over the period of time. So this led to the start of agriculture. So he realized that things can be grown. The things he have been looking for all around himself could actually be grown. And they started something known as agriculture. There they started herding and rearing animals also. So they were having animals, and they must have seen animals eating grass. And also when he saw grasslands coming up, he realized that if I start domesticating the animals, if I start taming the animals, I can feed them on this grass which is found around myself. Are we clear? Then what we saw were habitation come factory sites, places where stones were found are, and early people made their tools. Sometimes people lived here for longer span of time. See, if you want to use stones as tools, you need to understand that you have to give them certain shapes. If you want to use stones as tools, you have to give them certain shape, and that shape cannot be given in years. So what was happening here was they had to settle for some times. They had to stop there, they had to stay there for a brief period of time. Only then they could make tools look like this out of these stones. So that ultimately became the reason they started having a settled life. Are we getting it or not? Sorry Kirti, I missed out on your question. Your question is how much years back evidence of Kunul caves. So the earliest traces of fire, they go somewhere 30,000 years ago. So 30,000 years ago from now, we saw the initial traces of fire. Okay. Hello Gagan Sharma, I am fine. How are you? So we need to understand that eventually when these people were turning these stones into tools, they started living at one place, and they initiated what is known as the settled life. For example, Bhimbetka caves in Madhya Pradesh is example of such habitation site where natural caves and rock shelters in which these people used to live. We saw the traces of tools there. We saw certain paintings on the cave walls which suggested us that they eventually started living a settled life. So to summarize, people who lived on this subcontinent 2 million years ago were hunters and gatherers. They hunted wild animals, they gathered plant produce to get their food. They moved from place to place in search of food, water and other resources. These are the examples of various types of stones which were used as tools by these. They used stones, they used wood and they used bones also. Are we getting or not? Are we clear till here or not? Are we clear till here or not? Just let me know. Sir, many old caves have paintings on their walls. I told you that maybe the early humans, they wanted to save themselves from rain, so they decided to go inside the cave. And since they were sitting empty and they had certain pointed stones, they started making drawings. They draw wild animals with great accuracy and skill. So what was happening was they were able to draw. See, you cannot draw something which you have never seen. They could draw wild animals. So this gave us the image, this gave us the information that if this cave painting was done 50,000 years ago and a cow is drawn over there, it means that cow was there 50,000 years ago. There is a place in Karnataka, it's a small village called as Hunski. Large number of Paleolithic sites have been found. A large number of tools were found and most of them were of limestone. You need to remember Hunksi. The traces of earliest civilizations were found in Hunksi, a small town in Karnataka. Paintings like this were found. So what do you understand by this painting? So you see, this is something, a bull-like animal drawn here. A bull is chasing another bull. Maybe they wanted to represent the bullfight. bulls were fighting. That is a very common sight. You must have seen somewhere on TV or somewhere at the roadside also. You often see bulls fighting with each other. So that bull fighting was quite evident in this image. Then there is this image. You see a man-like individual is running after this deer-like animal. So maybe it wanted to show that man was chasing a deer. This two-legged creature, it has to be man. You cannot expect a lion to be two-legged. So this two-legged creature was chasing a four-legged creature who had horns. So maybe they wanted to represent a deer. So such types of paintings were very common, and these paintings date back to years ago. It was also found that ostriches were seen during the Paleolithic period. So these type of informations, they become important. That's why we are asked to read NCERTs. For example, it is clearly mentioned that ostrich was found during the Paleolithic period. So for example, if I have to set the examination, I may ask this as a question. Which of the birds traces have been found during Paleolithic period? I will give you 4 options: ostrich and 3 other birds. So we need to remember that ostrich was found during Paleolithic period. Large quantity of ostrich eggshells were found in Maharashtra. So traces of Paleolithic age can be seen in states like Maharashtra. The ostrich eggshells were found, and some designs were engraved on some pieces while beads were made out of them. So they were using shell of ostrich eggs to make some designs. They were using these shells to make beads out of it. So they were using it for different number of purposes. Factory sites were found. Factory sites, don't confuse these factory sites with the modern factories that you have big machineries and all that. Factory site here represented the areas where they could make their tools. Where people used to rub these stones, make them into usable tools. So these were known as factory sites. Grasslands, these were the areas of high fertility and were good for growing crops because these civilizations had seen grass growing on them. They could see habitation come factory sites, as I told you that they used to live at certain places. They used to use them as factory site for making tools. Then we talked about hunters and gatherers. So these were people who lived 2 million years ago. They used to hunt wild animals, catch fish, birds. They used to gather food to eat and were called as hunters and gatherers. So overall, these were the things that are being talked about in chapter 2nd NCERT of class 6th. Are we clear till here or not? Now many of you could say that, sir, this is something very easy. Why we need to understand? Because information like this, that finding an ostrich or an ostrich egg, you won't remember it without reading. These books or these chapters are really small because they were actually meant for a 6th class child to study. You getting it or not? Don't misunderstand that, sir. This discussion is very simple. We were told that we have to read NCERT. What's there in NCERT to read? Remember, sir, we are reading class 6th NCERT. It was not meant for us to prepare for UPSC examination. It was actually meant for a 9-year-old child to understand the things. That's why these chapters are simple. Eventually, when we'll proceed with 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th class, things would really add up in a way that we'll find them interesting and we'll find them difficult also to understand. Are we clear till here? Are we getting things or not? I hope you find these classes helpful. Every day at 1 PM we'll have a geography class, and at 7 PM we will have this history class. Once we are done with NCERTs of these 2 subjects, we'll pick up another subjects. I promise you, you have to religiously follow me on this channel. We'll be covering each and every NCERT. Sir, apart from that, if you want to qualify this examination, you need to get associated with our iconic or plus subscriptions of Unacademy. While purchasing the course, don't forget to use this code IAS Icons. Unacademy is giving you Doubt Darbar, where you can get your doubts cleared. If you haven't subscribed to this channel until now, do it at the earliest. Press the bell icon and join our Telegram channel by this very name. You go to Telegram, you can search for IAS Icons and find our Telegram channel. I'll be uploading the PDF of all the lectures that we discuss. Are we clear till here or not? Are we getting things or not? Yes, Arun Gaur. Anybody having any doubt can ask me. So in a very similar manner, chapter wise chapter, we'll be discussing NCERTs for each and every class on this channel. Apart from this, other faculties will be joining me very soon, and we'll be discussing the holistic syllabus of UPSC. So ultimately, with the help of these classes, you can qualify the examination. And if you actually want to qualify this examination, you need to enroll with us in our Plus and Iconic subscriptions. Don't forget to use the code IAS Icons. So that's all for today. We'll meet tomorrow with another chapter, both for geography and history. Thank you very much. All the best. Keep working hard. Bye bye. Take care. Jai Hind.